Think back to your high school history class. Wait, did you even go to high school? You know what, forget it. I don't want to argue, nor do I want you to punch me in the face. So I'll just catch you up to speed on some stuff I'm sure you already know. The lost colony of Roanoke was a British colony off the coast of what we now call North Carolina. As the name implies, it disappeared. Okay, the colony, not the island. 115 people just whoosh, gone. Okay, goodbye. To this day, no one knows what happened to them. Well, no one except for me and every other supernatural junkie on the planet. See, the darkness was first carried to North America by one of the colonists, and where the darkness goes, its enemies follow. One of those enemies, the Angelus, came to a nearby tribe of Croatoan natives. Influenced by the Angelus, a Croatoan maid slipped into the colony under cloak of night and massacred the colonists in their sleep. This is the weapon she used, Roanoke's Bane. But the Angelus had been mistaken. The darkness was not in Roanoke, as it was being carried by the colony's leader, John White. John was back in England, procuring more supplies. When he returned to find Roanoke deserted, the darkness knew the Angelus had been there. Unfortunately for the Croatoans, the Angelus had already moved on. They were defenseless when the darkness fell upon them, much like the colonists had been. Fair's fair, I suppose. This one's a little tricky. You know the story of Noah and the Great Flood, right? Okay, humanity grows wicked, God floods the planet, family survives on floating zoo, classic Sunday school. Well, here's what really happened. As you know, the darkness feeds on human suffering. Well, let me tell you, if you think life sucks today, imagine how bad it was back then, before indoor plumbing. The darkness was at an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord of pain, and every meal was making it stronger. Seeing as the Angelus was indisposed at the time, God decided to step in with one of his great ideas. Noah builds the ark, God floods the earth. 99.9% of mankind dies a horrible death. The darkness is destroyed. Huzzah! But did that happen? No, sir! Guess who was waiting once the world is dried off? That's right. Needless to say, the Almighty had a little egg on his face. According to legend, God breathed his remorse into the first seashell that Noah found once he left the ark. That shell became known as Yahweh's lament. I know, it's a different spelling. It's missing some letters. Place it to your ear and you will hear the voice of God. That said, only the truly mad or the nearly dead can fathom God's almighty words, which is kind of scary, seeing as how I think I can hear something whispering to me right now. Okay, not gonna think about that right now. Anyway, that's the deal with this thing. It's either Yahweh's lament or it's a seashell. The world may never know. Oh, wow. You seriously have a copy of the True Revelation? I'm impressed, Jackie. Didn't peg you as the reading type. To call this book rare would be laughable. Magic swords, true love, steak. These things are rare. The True Revelation is one of a kind. I'm not exaggerating. Every copy is completely different. See, the True Revelation is actually the Revelation of John, the Bible's explosive summer blockbustering finale. There are three schools of thought about the Revelation. The first believes it is a literal prophecy. This is retarded. The second believes it's a metaphor for Roman persecution. Plausible, but boring. The third believes it is a code that, once deciphered, will reveal the true revelation. People who believe this tend to be insane, but also extremely fun at parties. Now, everyone deciphers the revelation differently, which is why each copy is entirely unique. Just flipping through this one, it appears to have been deciphered by the Brotherhood. In fact, it predicts the Brotherhood's descent into Crazy Town. That means this is a relatively true revelation. See, we can prove the Brotherhood went crazy, but we can't prove what the revelation predicted. Chances are the man who wrote this copy only saw what he wanted to see inside the revelation. Or he was insane and just poured his depravity onto the page. Like they say, write what you know. Either way, this translation has probably guided the Brotherhood's actions for at least a century. Kind of like the normal Bible still does today, Almost makes you wonder who's crazier. You know, Jackie, you bring me the nicest things. Your methods could be a little less mass murdery, but who am I to argue? Anyway, you wanted to know about this piece. It looks like a panel from the Metatron Steely. I don't know. We're gonna say steel, okay? Which would be amazing if it weren't impossible. See, the Metatron steel was carried down from heaven by Enoch, way back at the start of time. This wasn't easy. The steel was a stone slab, carved directly from the seed of creation. On it was inscribed every revelation Enoch witnessed in heaven. The amount of knowledge contained on just an inch of this thing would shatter our every notion of creation. So, of course, someone fucking lost it. Lucky for us, someone else was smart enough to copy it. Well, parts of it. This is one of those parts. It's called the Sister of Light, and it's pretty important, at least concerning you. Think back to Genesis. There were only two things in the beginning, light and dark. The Bible says God separated the two, turning light into day and darkness into night. But in actuality, the darkness just stayed the darkness, and the light became the Angelus, or, as it was once known, the Sister of Light. What is the Angelus? Well, not to bum you out, but according to legend, it's your other half, Jackie, and all it wants is to rip you open and burn away the darkness. Yeesh. There's just not an easy way to lay that on somebody. See this sexy guy right here? This is the Dark Man. As you can tell by the cute little demon heads on either side, the Dark Man was one of your predecessors. In fact, he's the first Darkness host we have any record of. We know there have been hosts before him, but none of them got statues, so fuck him. No one knows who the Dark Man was, or where he came from. All we have to go on is one passage from the Hidden Testament of Moses. If I can paraphrase, it says, "He walked out of the wilderness, a dark man who spoke with authority." You know, like James Earl Jones. And those words were black, even the wisest were swayed. Cue 40 years of horror unlike anything the world had ever seen. Oh yeah, you heard that correctly. 40 fucking years. Moses wasn't lost in the desert for 4 decades. He was fighting a war against Mr. Tall, Dark, and Stretchy. Seriously, I mean, what's up with this guy's neck? He's like a giraffe. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, the 40-year war. Before the war had ended, the Dark Man had eaten Moses' heart, which is the real reason Moses never saw the Promised Land. It's also probably why the Dark Man got a statue. I mean, killing Moses is a pretty big deal, historically speaking. Whoa, hold up. Whoa, whatever you do, for the love of God, don't ever let that blade touch your skin. I mean, what do you think you're doing bringing that here? Well, okay, yes, this is your house, so I guess you can do whatever the fuck you want. But remember, I'm here to help you figure if what you want to do is actually something you don't want to do. Trust me when I say, using that knife falls into the latter category. That's a furba, which on its own is dangerous enough to a guy like you. A furba's blade will pin a demon to the spot. Once that's done, only the person who shanked the demon can free it. Now, it is possible that a normal furba wouldn't be strong enough to bind you, but this is the Trinity. Its blade was forged from the 3 nails that crucified Christ. Not normal! Extremely not normal! If you'd cut yourself with the Trinity, you would have been paralyzed. The only person who could have set you free would have been you, which you wouldn't be able to do because you would be paralyzed. Do you see the paradox here? Come to think of it, you ever decide to touch this stuff, just ask first. All right, nothing big, just a simple, "Hey, Johnny, is it okay if I touch this?" And I'll say, "Sure, Jackie." That absolutely will not trap you in a never-ending loop of torment. Or I'll say the other thing. No. Okay, so you know the story of the 10 Commandments, right? Of course you do, okay? Moses went up a mountain to receive God's law. When he came back down, Moses found his people worshiping a new god, the golden cow. But they didn't call it the golden cow, it had a name. But legend says God struck it from man's tongue, never to be uttered again. Nowadays, we just call it the Graven Image. Well, Moses was pissed, obviously, so he disbanded this little cow cult. Some of his people, being of a progressive mindset, were like, "Hey, what about freedom of religion, man?" To which I assume Moses responded, "You're kidding, right?" But they weren't. So, led by their high priestess, these, we'll call them Calvinists, left Moses and went into the desert to worship their graven image. It was there, according to legend, that the Calvinists met a dark man. You can probably guess where this is going. The Dark Man claimed to speak for the graven image. He said it demanded sacrifice, human sacrifice. These weren't the smartest people. So, it wasn't long before they were cutting out each other's hearts. When they got around to sacrificing the high priestess, she was understandably not too keen on the idea. So, to save her holy ass, she repented to the God of Moses. Surprisingly, this worked. The Angelus descended upon the altar, possessing the body of the high priestess. The Dark Man escaped. The people didn't. Okay, I'm looking at this and what I'm seeing is the Chime of Deliverance. But, and mind you, this is a small but, all records of the Chime say it was destroyed along with Solomon's temple back in 586 BC. That said, records have been wrong in the past, so who knows? Maybe it's the real thing. The Chime first dates back to the 40-year war, that period of time when Moses and the Israelites fought the darkness in the wilderness. The Chime wasn't designed to be a weapon. Instead, it was an instrument of safe passage. According to the secret histories, the Chime was carried ahead of Moses' army and struck every 153 steps. Now, any army in history would tell you that ringing a bell nonstop is a bad idea. That's how your enemy finds you. Thing is, the darkness is no ordinary enemy, and the Chime is no ordinary bell. You're in the mob. The mob is Italian. Italians like opera, right? Well, you know how an opera singer can shatter glass by singing a certain note? Well, the Chime of Deliverance does the same thing, except instead of glass, it shatters darkness. The exact pitch has never been identified, but when struck, the Chime emits a sound that can physically push back the night. Now, if you want, we can test the Chime's authenticity. We just gotta hit it, make it sing. And this is a much larger butt. A butt of epic proportions, really. It might disintegrate you. Just saying.